Welcome to this edition of In-Depth Alaska. I'm Tracy Sinclair. With me today is the U.S. Attorney for the District of Alaska, Michael Heyman. Thank you so much for joining us. We're talking today about fentanyl in Alaska. It's Fentanyl Awareness Day on, it's April 29th when we're doing this interview. How has fentanyl been able to get such a stronghold in Alaska?
Fentanyl, it's a poison, and it's a man-made poison, unfortunately. It's one that started as a medication for battlefield injuries and people with terminal illnesses, and somehow it is transformed into something that is everywhere in Alaska. It's something that creates such a high euphoria that it's in high demand. That's number one reason. The second reason is drug traffickers have realized that there is a tremendous markup in the drug prices. And so they utilize Alaska to funnel their narcotics to because the profit margin is so wide.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because we do hear Senator Sullivan's office says that Mexican cartels target Alaska.
That's right. There are some reports that show that the price of narcotics, a pill, for instance, that contains fentanyl, can sell for 50 cents a pill on the streets of Los Angeles. That can be 200 times more in rural Alaska. So obviously a tremendous incentive to take that risk, including the transportation risk.
Wow. 2 years ago, in 2023, the Alaska State Troopers said that 74% of all overdose deaths were because of fentanyl. Is that number still that high?
That number is still high, particularly in Alaska. And the way the numbers break down is this, is when we look at nationally, last year there were about 86,000 fentanyl overdose deaths. In Alaska, proportionately, we have the highest proportion by far of overdose deaths related to fentanyl, and that number is exceeding 250 just in 2023 alone. And I'll add that the preliminary numbers are coming out that looks like it's about a 40% increase from 23 to 24, while the national average is actually down about 25%. We are up 40% in overdose deaths as a result of fentanyl.
So from a state and federal level, what can be done? What can be done? What should be done?
It's a multi-pronged approach. There's no easy solutions to it, but the first thing starts with education. And my office has partnered with community members, tribal members, local law enforcement. Sandy Snodgrass, for instance, who many of our community members are familiar with, who lost her son to fentanyl poisoning. We've teamed up with her, AK Fentanyl Response, and we've gone out to public schools. And we've talked to teenagers about the dangers of fentanyl. We're here today to talk to everybody here so that the word gets out about just how dangerous this product is.
We've been hearing the message. We hear it in the media all the time. Why do you think it doesn't seem to be resonating if our numbers are still going up?
Well, drug traffickers are clever. One reason it's not resonating is, for instance, they make fentanyl pills look like candy. And so it sort of normalizes the fentanyl pills to a lot of our younger generation. That's one reason. The second reason is we can always do a better job of getting the word out. Third, I think that we can prosecute better, such that we're stopping the flow of fentanyl into Alaska. And just by way of reference, in 2024 alone, we did some preliminary numbers in the office, and about 90%, 9 out of 10 of our cases that involve narcotics in the U.S. Attorney's Office involve fentanyl. There's so much of it out there, and we need to keep prosecuting them.
And from a community level, I know that there have been, we've heard stories of different communities like stopping drug dealers from coming into their towns.
Right.
We're a spread out state. How can people outside of your big cities, how can they help kind of fight this battle?
That's a great question, because one of the reasons I wanted to come talk to you today is to reach out to our community members to emphasize how important it is that we get those tips on the ground level. And we hear people say, oh, the tips don't go anywhere, we never hear back. And part of that's true, right? Law enforcement tips are confidential and they don't necessarily interact with the citizens as much as we'd like to. But I can assure you that law enforcement is looking at those tips, and they can take those tips and start to gather information collectively, and we start to see trends develop from that. And therefore we can figure out where to focus our resources and how to best combat the flow of the fentanyl even to rural Alaska. And here's an example. As we know, that the vast majority of fentanyl, all our hard narcotics, is coming through, postage parcels as well as the airport, and then being distributed out to the villages. And so there are focal points that we can focus our resources on. Who's doing it, times of day, other methods. It's important to get those tips so we can focus our resources.
So people just continuing to provide that information can help you kind of isolate where these things are happening.
Absolutely. And it's, in many circumstances, especially rural Alaska, it's just not possible without those tips.
And so from somebody that's deep in the depths of this and looking at this crisis in Alaska, are you hopeful? Do you think we can fix this?
I'm hopeful because the national trends have gone down, and so there have been measures that have been effective. I'm hopeful because I have 3 school-age children of my own, and it's something that I recognize has to be done. And so our office, as well as several community members, with that kind of dedication, I am hopeful.
And so if the numbers are going down in the lower 48, what are they doing that we're not? Is it just the price difference and being targeted?
I don't have a crystal ball to answer that one. There's a lot of trends that are happening in the lower 48 that sometimes take a couple of years for us to catch up on. But what I can say is that we are now focused to a point where we should see the numbers come down, and that's our goal.
And so as somebody, again, that's deep in the depths of this, what's the most startling thing about the fentanyl crisis to you?
One of the startling things is, as a business model, one would think, why would any drug trafficker put out this poison that ends up killing so many people? The DEA has recently come out with some numbers that show that about half of the pills that they're testing have lethal doses of fentanyl. Whether you get those on the street, whether you get them online, it's a mind-boggling number that much poison is on our streets, and you wonder why. But when you start to peel away the layers, you realize that it's so profitable that drug traffickers are willing to take that risk, and it's so addictive that they think there's going to be more market for it, that they're willing to put the poison on the streets.
Wow, yeah, because you think that if you're going to kill your client, you won't have anybody to buy your product. That seems...
and it seems counterintuitive to
right.
A business model. But there continue to be more, because we have not been as effective as we can on the education side, educating people about it. We have not been as effective as we can be on the investigation and prosecution side. But when you ask me if I'm hopeful, I do want to come back to, I didn't throw this out there before, but last year, from March of 24 to 25 of March, there's about a 120% increase in fentanyl seizures in the state of Alaska. It's a remarkable accomplishment by our law enforcement partners, primarily at the airport and other places, because we are focused so intently on stopping the flow into the state.
And so, any final thoughts as you we're on this Fentanyl Awareness Day? You've got what do you want to say to the people of Alaska? It's
everywhere, and it's unfortunate that it's everywhere, but it is. It's in our schools, it's in our rural communities, and we need to be alert to it. We need to be alert to the dangers of it. And please, 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 let us know when there's information out there that we can use in our investigations. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for listening to In Depth Alaska. With us today, U.S. Attorney for the District of Alaska, Michael Heyman. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.